Chef Jeff from Fox Valley Technical College is joining us and hosting us today, and we are so excited to have you with us.
Hi, Jeff.
Good afternoon.
Since this is our first opportunity to do something like this, I just thought we'd turn it all on and make it more interactive than just a typical webinar. So if you want to ask a question as we go along, I asked Chef Jeff as we play the videos, we hope, that he said just we'll wait until he gets done presenting before we ask questions, because I found out I now have the capability of also turning that function on, but we won't do that. So we'll ask you to probably mute during the time that we're doing the video. So Chef Jeff, do you want to say something before we start the first one, or what are you thinking?
Well, on behalf of Fox Valley Technical College, thank you for the opportunity to spend lunch with you today. So looking forward to it.
So welcome all to Healthy Cooking, and our first entree up is going to be 4 different ways to cook salmon. So I think if it's okay, Chef Jeff, what I'm going to do is show the first one that you just in kind of the order that you sent them to me, if that's okay, and then we'll discuss it afterwards, and then just kind of go back and forth and get your words of wisdom, and we can ask you questions because we are salmon devotees.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hi folks, Chef Jeff here from Fox Valley Technical College on an early autumn morning. Today actually happens to be game day, and as you know, in Wisconsin, game day means good food. So what I've got today is I've got some tail sections of our beautiful Wisconsin farm-raised salmon, and I'm going to take these, I brine them for 24 hours, and the basic brine I use for salmon is a half a cup of salt for every gallon of water. Now in this particular instance, I only brined these pieces of fish, so I did a half a gallon and a quarter cup. So the ratio of a half a cup of salt for every gallon of water is an important one to remember. I take a piece of foil. I always buy heavy duty foil, and this happens to be an 18-inch piece, and I'm going to take it now. I'm just going to fold it into thirds to give me some strength so I can transfer that fish to the grill. I call it a grill, but today I've got it operating as a smoker. So I just flatten this out like this. Play with the wind a little bit. So now I've got a piece of foil that's 3 times as strong when I go to put it on the grill. So I'm going to take these brine pieces of salmon, took them out of the fridge about an hour ago, and you see I put them on a rack just so they kind of dry off a little bit. Just put them on there like this. Now, I grew up eating smoked salmon, and a lot of the people who smoked it back in the day, in my opinion, had a tendency to way over smoke it. And I think it's really important for the quality of the finished product to just cook that fish until it's done. And that magical temperature for fish is about 145 degrees. So when, just a sidebar here, I take these ends and fold them up a bit so that it gives me a little handle to grab. Getting back to cooking that fish, I'm gonna try to run my smoker between 200 and 225 degrees, and I'm just gonna ease it up to temperature to that 145. Reason being, I want to do it very slowly so it can absorb lots of the nice smoke that you can see here. The other thing is I just don't want to overcook it, so I'm going to just do it as slow as I possibly can. So let me come around the other side of the grill there. Just easing up to about 200 degrees, so we're right where I want it to be. So open up the smoker. I'm doing this indirect. I've got my plate setter in there, so the smoke is going to roll like this, and I'm just going to carefully pick this up, put it right there, and close it up. As I mentioned, now I let some cold air in, so the temperature dropped a little bit, so I'm going to bring that up slowly, 200 to 225 degrees. Let that smoke you know, kind of caress that fish a little bit. I'd like to smoke it for at least an hour so it has a chance to absorb those nice smoky flavors. And then when it's done, I'm going to take it out. You can eat smoked fish warm smoked or cold smoked, right? A lot of people tend to eat their smoked fish cold. I really like it right when it comes off of the smoker. So a great treat either way. And then I'm going to take this smoked fish and do several things with it later on, including eating it. So stay tuned, folks. Chef Jeff here, Fox Valley Technical College. Go out and make it a great day, everyone.
We're back. So, Chef Jeff, words of wisdom there?
Well, recording puts on 100 pounds. So just keep that in mind that, you know, I'm really actually quite svelte. It's just, I'm sure you can appreciate it. It's just odd watching yourself, you know, and you'd be really critical of all the things you do and say, you know. My wife records these on my phone, my iPhone. We don't have any equipment. Sometimes she even does them against her will. And, you know, we don't do multiple takes. We don't do any editing. We just like shoot it. So, you know, every once in a while you get one of these that's kind of filled with bloopers. I had one where I was supposed to say 2 tablespoons of garlic, and I think I said 2 cups. And, you know, she's sitting there recording and her eyes get big, and you know you just did something, but you're not sure what it was. I just let it go. I figure if anybody's going to put 2 cups of garlic in, they deserve it. You know, it's... So anyway, if these kind of things interest you, just a little bit of background on the videos. So this all started out of necessity. So when we all got sequestered last March, you know, when the whole world shut down and we were, you know, kind of stuck, and we're empty nesters, and my wife, in her kindest possible way, said, you know, honey, we kind of get in a rut and we cook the same stuff. Why don't we bring out the cookbooks? You know, because I've got, over the years, I've been a chef for more than 35 years. You know, I've got lots and lots of recipes that I've developed that are ready to hand to other people. They're ready to go. They're usable. She said, let's go through the cookbook and come up with some different stuff so we're not eating the same stuff all the time. So then about, I think our first recordings were in April. I said, you know, we should record these. What the heck, 4 minutes so people don't get too bored. You know, I mean, if it's too long, people give up on you. So they're all about 4 minutes. Anyway, we are in the 70s now. We've recorded over 70 times. And actually, to be very honest, the last 2 months, we haven't done many just because of schedule, you know. So we were cracking them out. Sometimes we do 3, 4 a day. Now, the ones you're watching, I was part of a panel. There was like a regional conference on farm-raised fish, and they reached out to me to see if I would do it. So of course I will, as long as I can use the videos and whatever. So that's what you're seeing there. And what I'm trying to get to in a long way about it is I post these on Facebook about once a week. So I'm in the 30s now of the ones that we've recorded. If these interest you in any way, all you have to do is send me a Facebook request. I had the Chef Jeff Facebook name, and then of course I got hacked about 10 years ago. So it's under my real name, which is Jeffrey, Jeffrey. Last name is Igel. All you have to do is send me a friend request. I only do food and funny, no politics, nothing polarizing, occasional little religion on holidays and things like that. But other than that, food and funny. So if you're interested in those, just anybody local, I will certainly accept on my Facebook page. The only other thing I made a comment or a note to myself, when you're cooking on a grill, to understand the difference between direct and indirect. So direct grilling is where your product is directly over the heat source, so that you have to be really careful because that heat is impacting that product the whole time, but you get that beautiful bounce back. So if you're cooking a burger or a steak and the juices drip on the coals, it returns in very flavorful smoke. So that's a good thing. Now, when smoking that salmon, I said we're doing it indirect. So I have a device in there, I reference it, called the plate setter, which allows the smoke to roll and buffers the heat directly to the product. So it's more like baking, basically, indirect. And there's a lot of different, I don't want to bore you to tears, but there's a lot of different indirect methods that people use. Usually if you're doing something longer, slower, more smoke absorbing, usually you're going indirect. You may have heard of the reverse sear method, which is by far the way to cook a steak, where you kind of warm it and then you hit it on the hot side for just a few seconds. So anyway, just concepts called direct and indirect. Not trying to be all nerdy and culinary on you or anything, but
I think Bobby has a question.
Yeah. So did you use any special kind, well, what did you use for your chips, or, what was in the fire, if you will, to smoke it?
My go-to is hickory. Hickory and oak are fairly similar. They're a little bit more pronounced than a fruitwood would be. Fruitwood would be. That's two different woods in a row there. Every smoke, we do this we have an elective coming up called grilling, smoking, and barbecue. And on the first day, we do a smoke test where we set up 4 grills with 4 different smokes, and we do just boneless, skinless chicken breasts that have been brined. We smoke them and we cut it apart for the students to taste each one to determine, is there a difference? And I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But the thing what we don't know as consumers is if I use oak, hickory, apple, I wouldn't say mesquite. Mesquite's kind of in its own category. I use a lot of maple. When you come and eat that food, I don't think you're really going to pick up the type of smoke. Only if you're eating them side by side, then you're going to just note some distinct differences. But that's a really good question, Bobby. It's fun. Do what you have too, you do what you have available.
How long did you, I know you, in the video you said people sometimes over smoke. How long, I know you do it to a temperature, but like for the salmon that you did, how thick was it and about how long did it take you to smoke it?
Well, I use the tails, and the tails, of course, taper and get kind of thin toward the end. That's probably what you'd consider the worst part. But because of what you're going to see in one of the next videos on how we utilize it, it didn't really matter. The premier part, of course, is in the front where you cut them into the nice fillet portions. You can use that, but I would rather use those for other things. And then, when I got this fish for these presentations, I'm going to utilize the whole thing. If you go to a restaurant, I gotta be careful how I say this, but if you get a tail section, it's kind of like, whoa, thank you for choosing me, because that's kind of the runt of the deal. I'm not even saying size wise, because you might get the right number of ounces. It's just not nearly as good. We tend to use those for other things when we're fabricating, making salmon mousse, or in this case, smoked salmon, different things. Good question though. Fair question.
Well, if it's okay,
I'll answer anything you ask. I'm too old to make stuff up at this point, so anything you ask, I'll.
Chef, when we go to the store, a lot of times you see multiple types of salmon, everything from someplace, a specific river, all the way down to just generic farm raised. What are the differences, and what do you recommend? It sounds like you were using farm raised, but you're also doing a gig for somebody. What do you recommend for salmon, and how to select good salmon?
Well, I think the idea of good salmon, we're very blessed in our area because we have some fantastic markets, whether it's a specialty market or grocery store, and I'm careful not to, pimp one over another. 20 years ago, farm-raised fish had they earned a bad reputation because these fish were raised in ponds that were not very clean and not maintained, and they were murky. And we all know why they were murky, because they're living in them, and so that really turned a lot of people off to the concept of farm-raised fish. So when you talk about Copper River and Alaskan and different brands, there are different species of salmon that are out there, and you're gonna pay for what they call line caught fish, from the wild versus farm raised. You're gonna pay a difference. The majority of fish on the market is Atlantic, which is a species, and the majority of it's farm raised. And some of the farm raised is even raised in the ocean where they just make pens. So they're in a very, very natural environment. So I'm not a snob when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I'm not implying you are if you do feel that way. I love salmon, and my wife loves it even more. So, and we know it's very healthy for us. So we should eat it at least once or twice a week, right? Because of the omega-3s that are in there and all that good stuff. And yeah, I was doing this for the farm raised fish group, but I really am cautious not to compromise my integrity to work with a group. But I'm going to tell you that the fish that they sent me to work with, probably the best fish I've eaten in my life. It was so fresh and so clean tasting, and it's available in Wisconsin. It's farm raised right here. It's really pretty impressive stuff. You know, and if I wouldn't have been impressed, I wouldn't have referenced it. But because I was impressed, it's like, wow, that's pretty special. And it is available all over the state of Wisconsin.
Well, I think it's 12:16, so we need to get on to our next one. It's kind of like which one do I pull up next? And it's kind of an opportunity for me too. So we'll see what happens.
Hi folks, Chef Jeff here from Fox Valley Technical College. Welcome to my home. This will be where I'll be preparing our dinner for tonight. And we have something special from Wisconsin today because we have actually a piece of fresh salmon that was farm raised in Wisconsin. This came from a company called Superior Fresh. They do all kinds of specialty stuff, and it's amazing because you can get it all over the state of Wisconsin and beyond our borders. So right here in Wisconsin we raised this fish. So you have a really nice piece of fish right here. I'm going to make it what's called Old World style for us tonight. And so I cut the tail off. I'm actually going to smoke that at a different time. I just made a little piece here. It should be enough for 3 people, but well, I'm feeding 2 tonight. But so I'm going to make this Old World style dressing. I used to serve this in restaurants all the time. I'm going to give you the recipe right now. I start with a little bit of mayonnaise, and to that I'm going to add a little bit of brown mustard. This is going to just kind of coat the fish without overpowering the fish, which is really important. You know, if you want to get that great taste of the fish to come through, you can't overpower it. So just a little bit of brown mustard with my little mini spatula here. A little bit of horseradish. Give it some zing. I like things a little bit spicy, so a little bit of horseradish with the spicy brown mustard goes good. As long as we're spicing things up, let's put a little black pepper in there. Let's not overdo it, just a little bit. What I also like about black pepper in a recipe is it gives some dimension to it. You can see it. It's kind of cool. And how about just a whisper of garlic? Pull that in there. Just a little bit. Because garlic is, of course, a bold flavor and it'll accompany the salmon really, really well. So we're going to just take this now, mix it all together. And then we're going to make a real light coating on that fresh salmon. Now I've got my oven preheating at about 375. I think this is going to bake for about 20 minutes. But every piece of fish is a little bit different, so you kind of have to watch it because we really don't want to overdo it. So, see, I'm just putting that on there. I'm going to spread that around. It is a little bit damp, so you know it's going to slide just a little, but I'm going to show you at the end what we're going to do to help keep that on there. Like I said before, this was very popular when I was in the restaurants, and our customers really enjoyed it. So there's all kinds of things you can do with salmon. You know, and this would work with other fishes too, but I like a bold dressing on a bold flavor like salmon. So let me just finish this up here, put a little on there, a little bit. Like I said, it's going to walk just a little bit when we're done. That looks pretty good, I think. And then, just to help hold it on there, I'm going to take a little bit of crumb. And you can use panko crumbs, you can use Ritz crackers, you know, whatever you have, even just some plain old breadcrumbs if you want. I'm just going to put that on there. Just to help hold it through the baking of the heat of the oven. And just a little, because I really don't want a thick coating on there. I just want a little bit. And then last thing I'm going to do is take some olive oil and I'm going to spray that so that it helps brown those crumbs a little bit on the top. Just a little bit over the top like that. Like I said before, 375, every oven's a little different, 375, 400, 15 to 20 minutes, just until that fish is done. If you were gonna temp the fish, you'd look for about 145 degrees, or just look when the flakes start to come apart, and then you'll be all set. What I'm gonna accompany this with tonight is some beautiful baby romaine greens, also from Superior Fresh. You can get these all over Wisconsin too. I've got some fresh asparagus and a couple of sweet potatoes here. Again, Chef Jeff, Fox Valley Technical College. Happy cooking, everyone.
Welcome back. That looks so good. And I don't know if everybody heard me. You have a pretty kitchen.
We have a big kitchen, which was, when we bought the house, we were, was kind of part of the gig, We moved here actually for when I took the position at Fox Valley Tech, which was 24 years ago. So.
Cool.
One comment about that recipe, there's nothing helping to hold a topping on the fish, right? If you were going to bread a product, you would put some flour on, which would create a tacky surface so that things don't slide. So when you put something like that on there, the mayonnaise is oil. I think the next recipe, or one of the upcoming ones, is pesto. That's got oil in it. So when oil heats up, it's loose and it starts to want to slide a little bit. So you want to discourage that if you can. Not quite putting everything out to the edge, because it's going to move a little bit. Baking at a little bit lower temperature helps with that. And of course, like I talked about in the video, the breadcrumb helps kind of absorb some of that, and it just kind of helps hold it on. So no matter who you are, you want your dinner to look good. It's not like you're necessarily cooking for restaurant customers, but you might as well be. Make it look good for yourselves too, right? A lot of color, a lot of health in there. So my wife is a very big nutrition person, and it's probably why I'm still alive. I would have to say that our diet is healthier than the average diet. Even though I'm a fat guy, I'm very proud to say that I weigh what I weighed in high school. And after, as many years in this profession, it's kind of an excuse because people expect their chefs to be fat. I was born fat. I was 56 pounds at birth. My mother didn't walk straight for like a year. So, when your genetics are against you, you're going to be a big person. If you look at my parents, unfortunately I still have them, but you'll look at them and say, oh yeah, oh, I get it. So it is what it is. You take it, but you don't have to just keep accumulating. I'm too frugal to keep buying bigger clothes. So try to maintain. It's good. Still frightening in fall when you try to put your jeans back on, isn't it? Isn't that for everybody? Well, it's September. Here we go. So, anyway, I digress. Do you guys have any questions on that recipe?
I thought it looked. I like the combination of the asparagus and the salad, and that looked wonderful.
Yeah, we're having a 2-vegetable night tonight as well. We're having Brussels sprouts and broccoli. It's just not all that uncommon for us to do that. I don't know if you caught, talk about your bloopers, but if you caught it, I think I did that in the middle of the afternoon. It looked like it was like 4 o'clock on the microwave because the oven wasn't on. So I'm watching it going, when are you going to bake that off? So I'm sure there was, we probably did a couple in succession, because our kitchen isn't always that clean. Let me tell you, my wife's the one to make sure it's video ready. Everything is like over to the sides, like so people can say, "Oh, you have such a nice kitchen." Not always.
All right. Well, I'm thinking just from a timing, we're 12:25, and we have 2 more videos yet of great things to learn. So here we go.
Hi folks, Chef Jeff here from Fox Valley Technical College, and today I'll be preparing another piece of our Wisconsin-raised, farm-raised salmon from our friends at Superior Fresh. What I have here is a fillet. It's got the skin on, but it's boneless, and I took the tail off and I actually smoked that a little bit earlier. And I'm going to take some pesto, some homemade pesto, and I'm going to season it. One thing you want to think about when you're cooking, and this is regard to really anything, if you have a bold flavored product, salmon's got a bold flavor. just like lamb, venison, right? We have different things that we cook that have a bold flavor. You want to use a bold flavor to complement it. If you use a subtle flavor, you're probably not going to be able to enhance it very much. So what I have here, as I mentioned, is homemade pesto. I took some olive oil, some basil, some garlic, and I pureed that all together, and then I added some pine nuts and some Parmesan cheese. So we're going to do, without any other seasoning, we're just going to put this directly onto this fresh fillet of salmon. Now, you want to be liberal, but you don't want to overdo it. And it's got a little body to it because the Parmesan kind of helps hold it together. So that's going to stay on there nice when we cook it. You can do this on your grill or you can do it in your oven. I suggest a temperature of about 400 degrees. It's a little bit hotter, and it allows that salmon to cook at a moderate temperature without like drying it out, and just kind of get it done. It's going to take, this piece is a little bit thicker. This is going to take probably 20 to 25 minutes to get it done. And I know you can't smell this because it's not smell-o-vision, but this pesto just has this wonderful aroma to it, the garlic and the basil in it. So I'm just going to keep putting this on there. Again, I don't want to overdo it. You might notice to my left, your right here, what we're going to have for the rest of our meal. I've got a fresh butternut squash that I'm going to cube up and roast. And then we've got some wonderful greens, again, from our friends here in Wisconsin. Okay, this happens to come from Superior Fresh. These are naturally grown here in Wisconsin. They've got all kinds of different products, and we appreciate them supporting us in this venture. As you see, I'm just finishing up here. I think I have just the right amount of pesto. I'm going to leave a little bit of a border on because I don't want it to just fall off as it's cooking. The oil is going to, kind of be a little bit of a lubricant on there as it cooks. I just don't want that to all slide off. I think that's looking pretty good. I brought a spatula and a brush just in case I needed it, but I think I got it just the way I want it. So again, 400 degrees. We're gonna roast this off. I was just talking to my daughter the other night, and we were talking about different things that we've cooked, and I was talking about this particular demo. And she said that the best salmon she's ever had is when we made a jalapeno jam. So think about the bold flavors of jalapeno and the sweetness of a jam. And so we roasted that filet, and then we finished it for the last 5 minutes with a nice jalapeno jam over the top. So again, like I started this presentation with, think about the flavor that you're trying to enhance. If you've got a nice bold flavor, even though this salmon has the best wonderful clean taste to it. It's one of the cleanest tasting salmons I've ever eaten in my life. Think about how we're going to address that and complement that as part of our cooking process. So again, 400 degrees, 20 to 25 minutes. Again, with our a little fresh greens here and some butternut squash. Chef Jeff here, Fox Valley Technical College. Go out and make it a great day, everyone.
Wow, it just keeps getting better.
I don't know. I think maybe we have to taste it to know for sure.
I know. You do that too. I have been to some of your set. That's how I learned of you.
Yeah, well, we've done over the years, we've done a lot of different events. I try to focus most of my energies on, as far as the program and, recruitment and people who are keeping our culinary program in people's mind as an option for a great career, because, the culinary world, well, first of all, positions are in critically high demand right now, but you can make a great living doing this if it's what you want to do. I think young people need to remember they need to do what they want to do. And I've enjoyed my career. There's no question about that. Just a couple of comments from the video that I wrote some notes down. If you notice, there was no added salt to the pesto. Always remember that cheese tends to add an awful lot of salt. So you don't necessarily need to add more salt to it. If you think about eating almost any cheese, you're going to get some saltiness. So just something to think about there. I used the comment drying out salmon. Salmon's one of the fishes that is among the more difficult to dry out because it's got so much natural fat in it. It's known as a fatty fish, but remember that the fatty fish have the omega-3s, and those are better for you, right? We tend not to fry fatty fish, right? We take lean fish, which are, very healthy, and then we batter and fry them and do all that kind of stuff that makes it a little less healthy. So think about drying out salmon. There are a lot of gateway products that if you're worried about, if you're not very good at grilling or you're a novice at grilling, grill some salmon because it's very forgiving because of the amount of fat that's in it. It keeps it nice and moist. If you're, we're watching me do the pesto on the salmon, that I kept going back to the same bowl. You want to be cautious of double dipping. You wouldn't want to have a container of pesto that you keep going back to because you could transfer bacteria from the salmon into the pesto. And if you put that back in your refrigerator, it could start to grow on you. So be really cautious. That's why I moved the pesto into the bowl, which then if I would not have used it, I would have discarded. You can always add more to your bowl. So start, kind of small and then add to it, just not to waste. And then when I was talking about the jalapeno jam and finishing, keep in mind that products that are heavy in sugar tend to burn easily. So I know, and I don't want to rip on him too much because he's a good guy, but my dad was the king of burnt barbecue chicken because he'd put the barbecue sauce on too early and then, kind of either forget about it or whatever. And because there's so much sugar in there, kind of got a little on the dark side. And my mom, as a saint of a wife, but always said, we like it that way. And then thinking of myself, like, and the rest of us don't. So just keep that in mind that anytime you're using a lot of sugar, it tends to cook and burn quite quickly. So keep that in mind. So.
Chef, you've mentioned a number of techniques throughout here, and I've been writing them down. Like the cheese with the salt, and you just talked about the sugar and the burning. How finishing it versus putting it on early. And one of the things we've been trying to do during the pandemic is move away from recipes and move more towards bringing combinations of flavors together and then utilizing techniques that will bring out or combine those flavors. And Sami Nasrat and Jacques Pepin and some of those authors. Do you have any recommended readings or places that we could go to keep building on those techniques?
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, there are just thousands and thousands of cookbooks, right? My friends that are in the ministry, I always give them a hard time. It's like, you guys have one book. Seriously, I have thousands of books. You guys have one book. So obviously I'm being sarcastic, but and I always tell
we
people,
might have to cut that out, Chef.
You work 1 day a week. You work 1 day. Anyway, it's all in fun, just trying to be. So I think it really depends on, what your preferences are. When I started competing in barbecue, which was, I think, 13 years ago, I just started buying different books just to get different perspectives. And, you see some similarities, but then you also see some differences. So I think it depends what you're trying to cook and what you're trying to, what your outcome is. Now, I think the outcome of this today was, healthy cooking. So what can you do to maintain and enhance the healthiness? And I don't want to overblow it or, like my diet is like perfect because I eat all the other good stuff that's not necessarily good for me either, But, adding those vegetables and the other flavors, using natural onions and tomatoes and other, I think about, like stewing, where you make up a natural sauce using the great ingredients. We're heading into, Wisconsin's summer is not very long, but we're heading into the best part of the year for growing, right? I realize most of you are probably not on my Facebook page, but for the first time in my life, I found a whole pan of morels this weekend. And, if you know anything about morel mushrooms, they're super expensive and they're super delicious. And so we butter poached them on the grill and enjoyed those too. So, all kinds of things that are out there. So Joe, I'm not trying to be evasive to your question. It really depends what you're looking for. There's so many great books and resources. If you ever are looking for like a kind of a Bible of cookbooks, Larousse, Larouse, is kind of a to Z dictionary of cooking. And, you know, if you look in like used bookstores, you can find them because they've come out with, that I know of, 4 editions. And I have a copy of each because I was able to find an old one at a reseller for hardly anything. So they are available out there. And I know the book I used the most, I think I bought back in like 1988, but it's LaRousse, and it's really, really good. The other book I would recommend for the home cook, just because it has almost every recipe you could possibly need, is The Joy of Cooking. It's just a home cook, and it's, you know, 600 or 700 pages. It's big. But if you need you know, what's the batter to make a quiche, you go in there, you'll find it, you know. And so that's a very handy book to have, even if you're just trying to, I know what I want to get to, but now I need, you look it right up, and that's very inexpensive. I have 2 copies of that, one at home and one at school, because sometimes you just have to have that. What is that? What is that ratio? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if
Yeah, or even a temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Chef.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, what if we go into the 4th video and then we can ask more questions, if that's okay at the end?
Hi folks, Chef Jeff here from Fox Valley Technical College, and I'd like to prepare for you a very special appetizer right now, and that is going to be a smoked salmon dip. So what I've got here is I've got a previously whipped 8-ounce piece of cream cheese. Really important, I think, to let that cream cheese come to room temperature so you can kind of whip it up. Normally I like to use my KitchenAid, but I'm making kind of a small batch, so I've got our little Holly Homemaker mixer here. I'm going to show you. And the star of the show in a smoked salmon dip should be the smoked salmon. So it's important that we don't overdo it. You know, the cream cheese is the vehicle, and we're going to season it a little bit, but we want the flavor of the salmon and also the texture of the salmon to come through. So I'm only going to season this cream cheese with a few things. I've got a teaspoon of dill. This is dill weed. Just going to get that in there, because dill is a nice enhancement for fish, right? I've got a teaspoon of coarse ground black pepper. I like pepper, it gives it a little zing, also gives it a little dimension in there. Put a little of that in there. And I also have a half a teaspoon of garlic, just to give it a little bit of flavor. So I'm going to put that in, and then we're going to take our mixer and we're going to get that all nice and combined. So in there. Because I've already whipped this isn't going to take long at all. Just to get that combined in there. Now the next step I think is really important, and that's put the mixer away. If you don't put the mixer away and use the mixer to incorporate that salmon, to me it ruins the texture. And it's maybe personal opinion, but I get kind of picky about that. As I mentioned, the star of the show is the salmon, so I want that to have a great texture to it. If you get in there and whip it up with those beaters, in my opinion, it gets to be the texture of cat food, and I don't want that, okay? So you may recognize these. These are 2 tails of smoked salmon that we got from our friends at Superior Fresh. So I smoked these previously, cooled them down. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna chunk them. So I'm gonna take that salmon off of the skin and just break it into pieces, right? Just take that off of there, because we don't want the skin. And I'm going to put that into nice pieces, just like that. And this is why, as I mentioned before, I don't want to use that mixer, because I don't want to maul it all up. I'm going to get those last pieces off of there. Notice how that the fat from the salmon allows you to pull that skin right off of there, and now you can break that into pieces, just like that. So, now I'm going to just remove this glove, because I'm not going to be touching it. I'm going to just grab a spatula here, and I'm just going to mix this together. So I've got, again, probably about a little over a pound of salmon. I've got a half a pound of cream cheese. And you see how by mixing it by hand, I'm allowing that salmon to stay in nice integritous pieces, meaning Yeah, when people eat it, they're gonna get those nice pieces of salmon. It's not just gonna be this mauled up cream cheese thing, but the cream cheese is still a vehicle. Now, how do you use this? Could you use this with some fresh vegetables for dipping? Sure. How about some crackers? You bet. How about some flatbreads? Sure, why not, right? Anything that you can use now, see how that comes together nicely? So that you can serve this. Now, right out of the fridge, that cream cheese is gonna be kind of stiff. So you might want to just ease it closer to room temperature. I think the flavors are going to come out a lot bolder for you. And it's going to be a little bit easier to spread on crackers and things. Now, you can't tell what I can tell right now, but the beautiful thing about this is the smell of that smoked salmon, because that is the star of the show. Again, this salmon was farm raised in the state of Wisconsin. It's got one of the nicest tastes you're going to find. So go out there and do some cooking, folks, and don't forget to shop local. Again, Chef Jeff here, Fox Valley Technical College. Go out and make it a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much. That was that. I want, as Bobby said earlier, I think we need to sample some stuff.
Well, out of the recipes, you know, obviously the one led to the other, but that one's pretty killer. Again, I was watching the microwave. I couldn't quite make it out, but I know for a fact that that was a Packer game day. And I got that done about 11:45. And so I mixed it all up. And, you know, it was just my wife and I, and we don't need to eat all that much cream cheese. I mean, a little few of them is fine, you know, because it's the quantities that we eat. Usually it's a problem, right? So I made some little containers and I bebopped around the neighborhood and I just went, hey, here, it's game day, try this. And how to win friends and influence people, right? So my neighbors like me.
Absolutely. That's cool.
Unless I'm smoking and they don't get any, because the neighbors to the north complain about that a lot. They're like, we can smell you smoking. So it's all good.
I get that
cooking.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was just going to say, I get that too whenever I pull out my green egg. Everybody walking by on the road is making comments about that.
You got an egg. Solidarity.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can't tell you how many eggs I've purchased. The college has 4 of them for my grilling class because we break the students into groups. And then we have one at our hunting land. We have one at home. My son has one. My daughter has one. So
well, I've only met people that have the same number of eggs, and that is not enough.
Yeah, you know, the slam on the egg. I mean, first of all, what people really want to give some consideration to is it's weatherproof. You know, we're in Wisconsin, you know, and it's at least an inch thick, probably a little bit more. And once you get that warm, sometimes I do grilling outside just to say I did grilling outside. You know, we did one, I coaxed my wife into, we did a cooking demo, one of these videos at -5. And it was like wicked cold out. She goes, well, are you stupid? I'm like, I want to say I did it at -5. So, you know, she stood there and, you know, but it was a little bit shorter. That one wasn't 4 minutes. I'm sorry, Bobby.
All I can say about the egg is don't put all your eggs in one basket. But you did trigger another thought about, you know, just when you're cooking for smaller family size, and I'm guessing that we all fall into that category, right? It's not like we're cooking for growing kids anymore and all of that. You know, what recommendations do you have? Because I do look at a lot of recipes and I'm like, there's no way I'm cooking that because I'm going to be eating it for, you know, the next 2 weeks. That's crazy.
Well, I'm glad my wife's working in the office today. She's not from home because she'd be chiming in exactly that because in 4 years that we've been empty nesters, she will tell you that that is not something I've mastered. We often eat the same thing all week. And yeah, it gets old after a while. And we're, like I said before, we're kind of frugal, so we're not going to throw it away. You know, and I hate to like keep throwing stuff in the freezer, you know, to pull out later. So yeah, trying to get those batches down to what you're going to consume. You know, when we go to our, I don't own any land. So when I say our hunting land, it's the family stuff. You know, when we go out there, I try to take what we need so we don't have to bring a bunch of leftovers home. You know, that's just a kind of a hassle. So finding the purchase, the portion to purchase, and then the amount to cook and actually what you're going to eat. I know that me personally, when I was younger, I could put a hurt on a load of groceries, and I just do not eat the quantity that I used to eat. I mean, I'm not going to diss myself for what I used to eat, but, eating like one hamburger now is dinner, and it used to be no, that was like the appetizer, and just kept going. So, your metabolism changes, what we need, what we appreciate. I think I would say we probably cook a little bit better and a little bit smaller. I don't know what the average family eats. We don't eat a lot of processed stuff. We don't eat a lot of pasta. We try to stay away from the whites, the carbs, try to keep our carbs in check. And if we're going to have carbs, we use the complex carbs to the extent. I mean, we're not like saints. I said this before, we eat what we want to eat, but I love legumes. Man, I'll throw beans in anything, or different applications there. And, but we like pizza. We do pizza on the grill and all that kind of stuff too. So, it's a variety. But even with pizza, Bobby, you don't want to eat it for a week. If you make a big pizza on the grill, you still want to keep that kind of modest. I mean, if COVID's taught me anything, it's the value of leftovers for lunch. I appreciate that, having something in there. I had leftovers today. But as far as, having the same thing all the time, yeah, I know when our kids were home, man, weekends were filling that fridge, and by Friday it was empty. Oh yeah, it was. Now it's disappointing that, hey, we still have leftovers on Friday. You mean we can't go out and get fish or something? No, we've got leftovers. It's like, learn. So now your motivation is to be done by Thursday so you can go out on Friday or whatever. It's all relative. I don't know if this was a good experience for you guys or not. I'm having fun, so.
No, this is fun. I mean, I'm picking, even some of the things you're saying are picking up ideas, and for me that I'm not expressing, but it's helpful because it's stimulating. You don't, so much of the day you don't have other people around that you can just listen to and think about this, because you're always feeling like you have to deal with the crush of whatever work is at the moment.
Yeah, and that's true for all of us, one way or another. We have stuff to take care of and whatever. I'm wondering, there was no closed caption on those videos. I wonder if I sent you the wrong ones. I wonder if I sent you my originals, because I know I have copies that have closed caption on them. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But.
If you have closed caption, that would be great, because we're at an age.
Well, I understand. There's podcasts I would listen to or watch every day, and I tend to migrate to the words on the bottom. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that one of the things we do in our neighborhood, because we have a number of people that are empty nesters living in our neighborhood, is we have what's unofficially known as the Lasagna Exchange. And what will happen is we'll pick certain days and somebody will make something and then they share it. And then sometimes we get shared back. Sometimes it's ingredients, like our neighbor goes out almost every day and fishes. And so his wife will distribute walleye fillets or perch fillets or whatever, to people. It's just kind of a fun way to do it. And we've been doing it with masks for the last year because we can't get together, but just to be able to kind of deliver pieces of your lasagna, so to speak, our Lasagna Express, is nice, because then you can cook that dish the way, without trying to skinny it down and figure out how in the world you get below a quarter teaspoon of salt or something goofy like that.
Yeah, what a great idea. I think that's fantastic.
I think that's fun.
Is, like I said, we don't eat a lot of pasta. So if we make lasagna, we use like veggie lasagna or something like that. That is definitely, in my opinion, something I don't want to make a ton of, because, warmed up vegetables to me are just not appealing. I'd rather make them fresh and, eat them up. Even like I said, I might have mentioned we're having broccoli and Brussels sprouts tonight for dinner. I buy this many Brussels sprouts because she's eating them and I'm eating them, and that's what you're eating, because I don't want, well, what do I have for lunch? Warmed up Brussels sprouts. Get it done. Same with broccoli. They have all the beautiful heads. Yeah, and sidebar. So the broccoli industry, they're not stupid, right? They know people want that head of florets, right? So they cut the stems off. You go over to where the coleslaw is, the section, you can get the broccoli shreds, or, where they run it through the machine. Those are all the stems, it is. And usually they're used for making like a cold application, like a broccoli slaw. I tell you what, we saute those. You could put any meat in there for your entree, right? And they're done in less than 5 minutes. So you get a pack. I don't even know what they weigh, probably 14 ounces. I'm just guessing. You get these broccoli slaw, I think they call it, or broccoli, whatever.
Broccoli slaw.
Yeah. I get a can of water chestnuts, and I start with a little bit of oil and get it hot, put it in there, throw the water chestnuts in, maybe a little garlic, maybe some red pepper flakes, and then a little, we use the light soy sauce or a little teriyaki. You don't need a lot. And just kind of wilt that down with whatever you got. You could put chicken in there. You could put shrimp in there. And boom, you got a one dish wonder, and it's primarily vegetables.
And now for Bobby's point of a small, smaller size, that would be the way, because you don't have to buy a ton of vegetables and stuff, and you don't end up with all those leftovers.
Yeah, but I can eat my leftover vegetables. I'm not.
You're better than I. I would eat leftover vegetables if they're like grilled peppers and stuff like that, but I just the whole thought of some weepy, wilty, warm.
Well, I didn't overcook them to start with.
Hey, Chef Jeff, the butternut squash. Before you leave us, how did you make that, or what are some recipes for the butternut squash? I just looked at that and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with that.
Well, it's my favorite squash. It's a little, you have to be careful cutting it because you can hurt yourself, right? So if you know what I'm talking about, the butternut squash is the bell shape. So that top is all solid. And then the bottom, the bell is hollow and it's got the seeds inside of it. Well, I clean them with a knife, but I don't know if everybody should. I know you can peel them with a peeler. And I tried that and I don't have the patience to do it. But peeling it is the hardest part. And then once you cut it into pieces, you just want to cut them consistent, because if you're roasting them or pan roasting them on the grill, or easier yet is sauteing them. I mean, they get done in not a lot of time. Just a little bit of oil and salt and pepper, and they've got they're very, very mild. So they don't have a squashy flavor. If you grew up where someone wrecked you because they gave you some really horrible squash, somewhere along the line, they're great. We make soup out of them. Butternut squash soup is so easy. Oh, and that's one we'll put either some shrimp in there when the soup is pureed, it's velvety smooth. We'll throw some raw shrimp in there and finish them. You obviously have to cook them. Or surimi, if you guys know what surimi crab is, the fake crab that comes in a 1 pound pack. It's really inexpensive.
And
very
fake
healthy.
crab, I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, some people are like, oh, it's processed. Well, it is. There's no question about it. It's also $3 a pound, and it's ready to eat right in the pack. And we like it. We eat it. That's great. That's awesome in the broccoli slaw too. So I used to hate cauliflower, like hate with a strong hate. And my wife likes it. So I was kind of depriving her. And, so I got into roasting it, and it's really not that bad when you roast it. You take that head and cut it into like 4 slabs, and then brush it with oil and some salt and pepper and put it in the oven or on the grill. It's actually pretty decent. I'll actually tolerate that. Problem is, Bobby, you can't eat the whole thing. So there's always leftover cauliflower, which I kind of already talked about.
Again, I'm not opposed to leftover vegetables. Send me your leftover vegetables. I'm good. But
Drive
honey,
down
you
the
can
road, throw them in the ditch.
Exactly. You can take that butternut squash, slice it in half, and just roast it. I mean, put a little butter or oil on it, salt and pepper, and then just roast it. It's amazing, and that's uber easy.
Oh, and you don't peel it.
No.
You don't have to peel it then, no.
No.
Eat it
The
right out of
peeling part was the one that kind of has always stymied me, and I understood conceptually why you would want it the same size pieces. Between the peeling and needing to do that just kind of that took me out. But if I could
Just
roast it
roast it.
all together.
Yeah. Slice it in half and then roast it.
I do
We'll do
stuffed
that.
pumpkins too. Have you ever done that?
Sausage.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking on top of you, Joe. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we make a sausage stuffing and put it in there we roast it part way, put that in there, and then finish it with whatever we feel inspired to finish it, like a light, some kind of sugary thing that's going to just brown up on it. And it just is, especially in a winter night when it's really cold, that's a great meal.
Stuffed pumpkins are great too. You get the little pie pumpkins. They're usually like $2, and you split it in half, scoop out the seeds, you pack it full, put it in your oven, and just let it roast until you can insert a thermometer so it's hot in the middle with either a sausage stuffing or something with some rice. We made, I think, 3 or 4 of those last winter, and I know I did a video on them too. It's just fun because you can pack so much into them.
I actually did that last year. I think I saw your video.
Is that right?
Wow.
And I ate my leftovers.
Where did you see the video?
It must have popped up on Facebook, is all I can say.
I might have posted that one. Yeah. Fun stuff.
Well, we're nearing 1 o'clock now, so I don't want to over ask anybody of their time commitments. Thank you so much for joining us and trying this out. Words of wisdom from anybody? What do you think? Should we try this again? I know that we'll have people that I think may have been like, I don't feel comfortable asking questions, but I want to watch it. So I'm also going to see what happens there. That's my prediction. And I also think it's just a matter of when you start something new, you got to give it a little bit of time for people to even realize what the thing is. So thoughts from anyone?
Well, the guest is important too. You want to find higher talent than what you started with.
No. This was supposed to be a series, Coach Jeff. This is a series.
Well, you had to have a place to start. So now I'm rock bottom. Awesome.
Coach, thank you for sharing your experience with us today. This was really, really a lot of fun. It was a great session. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm pretty sure you could tell I enjoyed it as well. So we'll find out if my audience at 1:30 is equally as excited, because my class starts at 1:30 and we have to round up the cherubs this afternoon and see how they're doing.
See, before you leave us, I have a quick question. I wrote down that you do a grilling smoking elective. So do people that aren't in your major, are they able to take that class, or is that just, do you have to be in the culinary program?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So there's a prereq for it, which is in the culinary program. So that's kind of makes it prohibitive. I can always waive that, but the challenge is there are 16 spots and they fill instantaneously. The students who are in that class signed up in October because that's when they register for spring classes. This is technically a spring class. So, I'm very humbled that they want to take that and they're excited about it. And we cook just a ton of food and they leave every day. I should weigh them before they start the class and after, because we really go through a lot of stuff. There's actually 3 competitions within the class. They're going to do a steak cook-off, they're going to do a slider cook-off, and they're going to do a full-blown what's called the Kansas City Barbecue Society, where they have to do chicken, ribs, pulled pork, and brisket. So I'm pretty excited about it, quite frankly.
Well, thank you again.
So,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, you too.
You as well.
Bye, Joe.